Nutrients. I always get this. I'm just going to fertilize as much as I can, and I'll grow it so green. It's going to be beautiful. No, it won't work. It won't work. We're going to go over why. Here's some problems, first of all, with applicators. This isn't a real good picture. You can see here where it's solid green. If you'll get to looking, you're starting to see strips in this one. When they applied it, they had areas that overlapped and then areas that missed. We do the same thing in our yards a lot of times. And you'll get to going and you head down the yard, and when you head back, you kind of skip over about 3 feet and you cut back across it. So you have some areas that are real green, some areas that didn't get as much fertilizer. So one thing you need to do, no matter what applicator you're using, you need to make sure that you cover the area, and normally you'll overlap just a little bit so that you don't leave gaps. And that area on the right, if you'll get to seeing, there's lots of strips in there. And it's not a bad deal, but it doesn't make your yard look as good, and it grows uneven. One area is growing higher, the other one's not growing as much. You should mow this every 4 days. This should be mowed every 2 days. You see, that's what you don't want with fertilizer. The 15-5-10 fertilizer. The first number, 15, is the nitrogen. That means that product has 15% nitrogen in it. Second number, 5, is phosphorus. It has 5% phosphorus in it. Third number, 10, is potassium. Has 10% potassium. Here's your nitrogen sources. Urea, these just like pastures, that's 4600. Works great in the spring when it's not real hot. It's a really good, cheap nitrogen source. 3400 is ammonium nitrate. Ammonium sulfate is what a lot of people around here are using when they use 2100. It's got 24% sulfur in it though. So if you have a very acid soil, would you want to be using that? Nope, because it's adding more acidity with that sulfur. Calcium nitrate, we don't get much around here, and the 13044 potassium nitrate don't get around here very much. In your lawns, I like to use more of what I call the coated. A lot of the sulfur coated. I want to use nitrogen sources that aren't released all at one time. I want that nitrogen to last more 8 to 10 weeks. If you put out just straight 2100 that's not coated, you get a good rain. A lot of times within 2 weeks, that nitrogen's used up by the grass. If you get a coated product, basically what that does is slow the absorption down of the nutrients. So it'll last out there about 8 to 10 weeks. Now, in the fall though, I don't like to use coated products. I don't want my nitrogen lasting. If I put it out the middle of October, I don't want nitrogen still getting to my grass in the middle of December, into the end of December. That grass should be going dormant, not still taking nitrogen up trying to grow. So I like to use a faster release product in the fall. Let the grass get the nitrogen that you're going to put out and use it on up before it starts getting colder and dormant. Organics. I am not against organics at all. They're usually a low analysis. Instead of like a 15-5-10, a lot of times you'll see them like a 4-1-2 or a 4-0-3. So you have to put more out. Not against organics, but organics don't work when the soil temperature is cold. They need warm soil to get the microorganisms to work to break down. So if you're using organics in cold soils, they're not going. So I got one more question. Nitrogen. Whether you put organic or inorganic, do they go different forms into the plant? Does organic fertilizer go to a different nitrogen source than inorganic to go into the plant? Nope. No. All nitrogen goes to inorganic to be picked up by the plant. The plant doesn't know what nitrogen you're giving it. It all goes to inorganic. I'm not against organics, but I don't want you to ever think that they're a miracle. They work well, but you need warm soils, and the plant doesn't know the difference between inorganic and organic. I do have to say though, some people say, but inorganic fertilizer has more salt in it. True. But some of your organic fertilizers, especially some of your manures, can have high levels of sodium in them too. Because especially if they're from the horse manures, they can have high levels of sodium. Both work well. I'm not telling you which works better than the other. They both work well. The plant doesn't know the difference. But I do want to tell you, organic, you need to use them in warm soils. They do not handle the cool soils. How much fertilizer do I need? First of all, you really need to take a soil sample. If you call me, I'm going to give it, and JD and Jeff, we're going to give educated guesses. It's about all we can give you. We're going to give you an average of what you should use. You may be using too much. You may not be using enough on that average. Never apply, and this is extremely important, never apply more than 1 pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet with a quick release fertilizer and even a slow release. And we're going to tell you how to figure that. I got formula sheet I'm going to hand out. We're going to go over it real quick. Take it home. Never apply more than 1 pound of nitrogen one time. So what I'm saying is, if you need a bag in your front yard and you put 3 bags because that's going to be just that much better, no, it's not. That grass is going to try to grow too much. You're going to lose root system. You're going to set yourself up more for disease. Some of that nitrogen is going to get washed out and maybe into the storm sewers, which isn't good, or down the stock tanks. Putting out a lot more fertilizer than you need is not the answer in a home lawn. Trust me. I've got a formula we're going to go over. I'm going to turn the lights back on just so we can look at it. We're going to go down and we're going to buy a bag of fertilizer. And you say, now, you said never put over 1 pound of nitrogen. I bought 18,612 or 17,510. How much do I put out? How much of that do I put out to get this pound of nitrogen? We're going to show you. There's a formula. The rate divided by the analysis times the area divided by 1,000 equals a pound of fertilizer required. The rate is going to be the amount of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. How much did I say you don't want to put over? 1 pound. So the rate's easy. The analysis will be what percentage it is. Let's say if it's an 18,612. How much nitrogen is in there? What percentage? 18%. Then the area, you actually guys have to step off your yard and see how big it is. I've got guys say, well, I'm going to put out fertilizer. How much do I put out? I go, how big's your yard? Don't know. What's my answer? Don't know. Don't know what the answer. I don't know. I don't know how big your yard is. It might be a little city front yard that, a quarter of a bag would do it. It might be 2 acres. Some of the Lavernia yards are big. Some of the areas right in the middle of Seguin are small. I need to know how big. It doesn't have to be exact, but at least step it off. It's 20 feet by 50 feet divided by 1,000. Okay. What did I say what fertilizer was? We're going to put out an 18,612. We want 1 pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square foot, and our yard is 50 feet by 20 feet. Okay? The rate is 1 divided by the analysis. It's 18%, so that's 0.18. Remember, 18% is 0.18 times, what's the area? 50 by 20 divided by 1,000. If we take that, it gives us the pound of fertilizer. So, if we take 1 divided by 0.18 times the 50 times 20 divided by 1,000, we come up with 5.55 pounds of fertilizer per 1,000 square feet. So about 5.5 pounds of that fertilizer will get you that pound of nitrogen. And you're thinking, how can I check that? 5.55 times 0.18 equals 0.999. That's pretty close to 1 pound of nitrogen. Take this home with you. If you're going to get confused, call me. I'll walk you through it. The nitrogen is going to be usually our most important nutrient. The phosphorus and potash, that's where the soil test would help. There is another reason to aerate a sand yard. Phosphorus does not move in the soil. It does not move. If you put it on the top, it won't move that much. It does not move. What's a good way to get it down in the soil? An aeration. So that's another reason an aeration will work. If you do need phosphorus with your soil test and you put it out, a lot of people will put their fertilizer out and then run the aerator across it to get some of that phosphorus down into the soil. Okay, here's how much nitrogen these lawns would need normally on a year. St. Augustine needs about 3 to 5 pounds of nitrogen per year. On a drier year, the lower rate. On a wet year, usually the higher rate because it's going to grow more. Remember, if you fertilize heavily on a dry year, it's hard on your grass because it's wanting to grow, but it doesn't have enough water. Bermuda grass, common 4 to 6, hybrids 5 to 8. Bermuda grass uses more nitrogen. Your zoysia is about the same as St. Augustine, about 3 to 5 pounds. And your buffalo grass, if you notice, about 1 pound, 2 pounds of nitrogen a year would be more than it would ever need. I know some people that don't fertilize it hardly at all. But that's all the nitrogen it would need. You're going to pick some up in the spring, some up in the fall, and some people will put a little top dress in the summer if we're getting a good year. The last few years, you wouldn't have fertilized much in the summer because it's extremely hot and dry. You normally want to wait 30 days after the last killing frost in the spring, but here's the deal. Mow your yard after you've got 2 good mowings of grass. It's time to fertilize. Not weeds, not the rescue grass that's growing up or the dandelions. When you've gotten 2 mowings of grass, it's time to fertilize. That means the grass is actively growing and it's going to pick up the fertilizer. Up to this point, what's mainly growing? The weeds and the dandelions and the rescue grass and all that. What's going to take up the fertilizer? Those are. I don't want to fertilize weeds and rescue grass and all that stuff. I want to fertilize my summer grass. So if you don't want to worry about when, after you've mowed the actual grass, gotten grass growth and had to mow it twice, put the fertilizer out. I would never fertilize around here until the middle of April. Wouldn't even think about it. I probably wouldn't fertilize. I'm not going to fertilize this year until the 1st of May, my lawn, because we're 2 weeks behind this spring with cold weather. But middle of April to the 1st of May, you can go out and start fertilizing. Also, if you fertilize too early, the grass picks it up, starts growing, we get a late freeze, and you've devastated it. Make the last application, which is your fall fertility program, about 30 days before the first killing frost. And the fall application, if you only do one or the other, is probably more important than the spring because it builds good, healthy root systems during the winter months.